Hi friends, it's Laura with Breastfeeding Housecalls, and I am excited to share that after 10 years of talking breastfeeding one-on-one with clients, I am going to be talking to the internet about breastfeeding through YouTube. So welcome to Breastfeeding Housecalls' new YouTube channel. This first video is going to be specifically about what a virtual lactation consult looks like compared to an in-person consult. The first question that I'm going to answer is, how is a virtual lactation consult performed? Then I'm going to talk about how do you perform a lactation consult virtually if you can't touch me. We're going to talk about how do you perform a lactation consult without an infant scale. We're going to talk about the advantages of a virtual lactation consultation, and then we are going to lastly talk about how to prepare for a virtual lactation consultation. So whether you're considering seeing me or another lactation consultant who offers services virtually, I think that this video is going to be super helpful. All right, so number one, how is a virtual lactation consult performed? Well, it's basically the same. I am with you in your living room or bedroom or wherever it is that you breastfeed. You're gonna perch me, which is basically you're gonna perch your phone. It's preferable to use your phone because phones are easier to maneuver with one hand, where I can see you while I listen and while you tell me what's going on. You're gonna also complete your intake paperwork before we see each other, but we're gonna talk as well before we get started. The consult, just as it would be in person, will kind of just take its own shape. So it starts out with me listening, it starts out with you sharing what your goals are, and then we will generally jump into latch work or pump work. It's very, very, very amazing how much can actually be troubleshot or fixed through virtual consultation. So pretty much everything is the same. Some parents want a second person there, whether it is a partner or a friend or family member to hold, for example, the phone. So if you are, for example, latching a baby, here's my fake baby, somebody can float me over, this is me, and I can observe a latch, or I can see you straight on. So it's nice to have a second set of arms just to float the phone around and show me different vantage points, or also to put them to work even harder as note takers, even though you guys will be getting notes from me. I will tell you that virtual lactation consults is something that I've been preparing for quite a while. They did increase with the pandemic, but really and truly, since I live in San Antonio and I see a lot of families that live in other countries and birth here because they want our healthcare system for their new babies, I will see them in person and then I follow them back home virtually. So virtual consults is something that I've been doing for a while. I've had the platform for years, so this is not new to me. I've actually, it was great because I got to kind of perfect the system prior to the pandemic. So it was a goal of mine to go full-time virtual consult, to become a full-time virtual lactation consultant. After 10 years of pounding the pavement, I was ready to be available to more people. So that is how it's very, very similar. We're going to talk, they tend to be shorter just because of the nature of virtual versus in person. Let's move on to the second question, which is one of my favorite questions to answer because it clears up a misconception. So how can a lactation consultation happen virtually if you cannot touch me? I get that question quite a bit. But the truth is that prior to doing online lactation consultations, I would minimize or avoid touching unless it was absolutely necessary. Why? Because the truth is that at the end of the day, or in the middle of the night, at 2 a.m. when your baby's waking up, I'm not gonna be there with you. So I wanna teach you and I wanna teach your family how to care for your baby without my skilled hands right then and there. Of course, it would be easy, right, if I was there latching a baby on for you, but the goal is I have not done my job if at the end of our consult, you and your baby have not learned self-sufficiency. Doing virtual consults is fine because even in person, I would minimize touching. So question number 3 is, how do you perform a lactation consult without an infant scale? Truth be told, if you're close to me, this last year I had been making scales available on loan But that's kind of a luxury, because if you think about it, the majority of babies in the world that are born and breastfeed do not get pre and post feed weights. I teach families how to measure breastfeeding without a scale. So there are situations in which a scale is absolutely necessary for pre and post feed weights. Typically those situations happen before a baby leaves the NICU, or if there is some sort of failure to thrive scenario where they're just not gaining enough weight. And if that's the case, and I assess that just by talking to you, I will tell you, you need to see somebody in person. If that's not a possibility, because many times it isn't, I will teach you how to measure your baby's feeding or satiation level without using a scale. That's a whole other video. So lactation consultants throughout the world don't always have scales, and that's okay, because so much of breastfeeding support is not about measuring numbers, it's about measuring satiation, teaching feeding cues, and things like that. So the next question I get asked quite a bit is, what are the advantages of having a virtual consult versus an in-person? In our current world situation, obviously, the benefits of having a consult virtually and not risking germs or illness far outweigh the risks of having somebody over in your home for a sustained period of time. Families go see their doctors, which is good. Keep in mind that encounters with your doctors are about 10-15 minutes. Lactation consults in home are 2 hours of us breathing the same air. Granted, I will be masked and you will be masked, which to me is less professionally intimate than a virtual call where I can see your beautiful face, I can see your expressions, your feelings, you can see mine, which makes me a more effective teacher. And also, I can get into your latches. I can actually see, so long as I'm floated over them, I can be a lot closer to you. So that is, in our current pandemic climate, that is an advantage. Even outside of the pandemic, the advantage is all of the above. You don't have to get ready, no germs, all of that. But also, one major advantage as well of as having a resource that's virtual is, in my case at least, I have set my prices or my cost to reflect different economies, because I see people across the world. So my rates are much lowered. I am worth a lot, don't get me wrong, but because virtual consults by nature are shorter than in person, I have been able to see more families per day and lower my costs. So that is a huge concern to many families, especially in our climate right now, our economy. So that's a huge advantage when considering. Some families will say, you know what, it's not a huge investment financially, but it could be an hour that changes your life, literally, as far as like breastfeeding and latching and feeling better about how you're starting out your journey. So if, for whatever reason, you still want to go see an in-person lactation consultant, the investment that you've made with me is not as overwhelming as if, you know, I had visited for 2 hours and the costs were higher. So that is a very big advantage. With that said, I have a pretty good track record of families just continuing to want to keep coming back, which is a blessing, because I get to watch the babies gain weight and get fluffy and develop. So this is my favorite part, which is I get to have better continuity of care, because families will keep coming back given the difference in costs than when I was doing in-home consults, because I don't have to factor in transportation, time away for my kids, car expenses, all of that. So I can definitely make the sacrifices in order to see more families and see them through longer. All right, and the last question that I get asked is, how do I prepare for my virtual lactation consultation? It's super easy. Remember that the logistics are basically non-existent. Maybe you go from your kitchen to the living room, but you don't have to shower, you don't have to brush your teeth, you don't have to clean your house. Not that I would expect a postpartum parent to do that anyway, but it's just one thing that you can take off your list as long as your milk is ready to be expressed, your baby is halfway hungry if we're working on latch, have your list of questions ready. If you have a support person that you're wanting to involve in the consult, make sure that they know what their role is, whether it's note-taking or kind of hovering the camera over, or both. Just let them know what their role is. And that's basically it. I send you pre-appointment intake forms that I very much appreciate and actually require that they be complete prior to us working together. So that concludes my first video on Breastfeeding Housecalls' new channel. I promise you guys I have so much planned, so many cool topics. I hope that you guys will subscribe. I hope that you will turn on your alerts so that you're the first to download into your head the wisdom that I will be uploading into the YouTube channel. All right, so make sure you subscribe, you like, and you share. Thank you.